Publishing is the final step in your writing process. When we publish, we're going to publish on this lined paper. The day of the STAR test, you will have 26 lines to write your final draft. Now you can see, I didn't have to write too small, but I had to write small enough to make sure I fit on my paper, and it fit just perfect. I didn't have any extra room. On the top line, I put my title, which again, I told you before, don't just pick something like my favorite subject or I love math, because that's boring. Try to think of something a little catchy. So for my title, I said, is that your final answer? Like it's a game show and it's a math problem, since I wrote about math. Then I told you before in your draft, the reason we draw out 3 boxes is because that's where our 3 paragraphs are going to come. We're going to have a paragraph up here for our introduction, our brilliant beginning, our wow statements, 2 wow statements. Then you're going to indent right here, and this can all go together, and then you're going to indent for your ending down here at the bottom. So I indented 3 times, and you can see right here. I indented right here, I indented right here, and I indented right here. And you can see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, but you can see that I didn't skip any lines, because the day of the STAR test, you're not going to skip any lines. When I got the end of the when I got to the end of the paragraph, I just skipped the rest of that line. I came down to the very next line and I indented. And in indentation, it's not too far. It's about the size of your thumbnail. So I indented. So I indented here, and then all of these lines came back and touched the margin. I indented here, and then all of these lines came back and touched the margin, and then I skipped the rest of this line. This indented, and it all came back. Once you've done your final draft, you just want to make sure it's in your nicest, neatest handwriting. I'm not picky, and neither are the people that grade the STAR test over whether or not you do it in print or cursive. You can decide that. There's nothing wrong with print. The main thing is that when you're publishing, it needs to be in your nicest, neatest handwriting. You need to let the person grading your paper know that you cared enough to write it in your nicest, neatest handwriting. And then, before you turn in your paper, you need to go back and use a whisper phone and read it out loud to yourself to make sure that it says exactly what you wanted it to say. Here's my final draft. Is that your final answer? Here's my brilliant beginning. It has my bada bing and my central idea statement, but I didn't put those on here because this is just my final draft. So I indented and I said, my feet walked quickly to room 110 where I was going to start my day in math. Now again, room 110, we don't know if that's the room I was in 4th grade, but anytime you add a fact or a number, it doesn't have to be true, it just has to be believable, and this is believable. I saw numbers and word problems everywhere, and I knew I needed to put on my thinking cap. I saw numbers and words everywhere, comma, I knew I needed to put on my thinking cap. I'm pretty sure I know these answers. I thought to myself, my favorite school subject is math. So I have my what were my feet doing, what were my eyes seeing, what was I thinking, and my central idea statement about my favorite subject is math. My what of the paper. Then right here, this is all my examples that explain. So I told you why, I told you who turned me on to math, I told you where would you use math and when to use math, and this is my paragraph here. Although there are many activities and subjects we do every day, I always look forward to math because I never know what new concept we will get to learn. As far as I can remember, I've always been, this is why it's important to read it back to yourself because you might leave something out, been fantastic at math. I come from a long line of math teachers. My Oma was a math teacher, and so was my Aunt Loy. The person who really made me excited about math was Mrs. Bradburn, my 4th grade teacher. You use math every day, everywhere. At the grocery store, you need to know how to add, because if not, you may embarrass yourself if you don't have enough money. You also must know how to tell time so you are not late all the time. Math is, then I said, when do I do math? Math is my first subject of the day, and I love this because my brain is fresh and rested and as sharp as a tack. Then I'm through with my examples that explain, so I skipped the rest of this line and I came down to the next one and I indented. Here's my excellent ending. I will always remember Mrs. Bradburn singing and dancing to a Western song to help us learn our multiplication facts. 6 times 9 is 54, the song would drawl out. Learning math is an important life skill that you will carry with you forever. So again, it's a nice, neat paper. And if you want to go back and look at the rubric, which is what we did to begin with, do I clearly state my idea? Yes. I told you what 1W, and I defined math and why I like it. Write about your favorite subject, math, and tell why it's your favorite. I told you why it was my favorite. Then I organized my writing by telling you why. Definitely have a why in there. Then I developed my ideas by giving you examples that explain. That's my who, what, when, where, why that I added. I chose my words carefully. That's when I went back and I changed love to enjoy. I changed, instead of been good at math, I've been fantastic at math. So I made good word choices right there. That's when I exploded using the 5 W's and making good word choices. I revised and edited my paper, and I made sure it sounded the way we talk. And then I made sure that I have an ending. So in the end, I've taken my paper through the writing process, and I think it's a very good example of what your STAR writing paper should look like.